Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Darion Ree titled New Me. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen here on YouTube, the beat and lyrics visualizer. Now, this is not the first track I've checked out from Darion Ree before. We've also checked out their song titled Chisty, so it'll be good to hear more. And we're going to listen through this track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Should also note here at the end there's going to be like an overall kind of score and song analysis, but for now, let's go, let's do it. The K-pop, that decision there was interesting.
With the lies this time I'm gone 내가 다 알았어 Try to change but I saw the truth 너만 바라봤어 지금은 나만 보게 I'm better stronger than before 더 이상 뒤돌아보지 않아 Gonna take the world 내가 해 너와 나 끝난 이야기 I'm on my own Can't stop me now I'm shining bright like the stars above 이제 나를 믿어 If you try just a little harder I could have been your queen but now I'm walking on my own 난 혼자서 돌아보지 않아 내 길을 가 You'll regret the day you let me go
There's a nice harmony going on there with the vocals as well. It's kind of subtle, but it works well for a bridge or a build.
놓치지 마 Now I'm standing tall 나만의 길 너는 이미 멀리 떠났지 봤지 내가 어떻게 올라왔는지 내게는 두려운
Nice portamento and oscillation on the 808s.
넌 이미 놓쳤어 이제 나만의 시간이야 If you try just a little harder I could have been your queen but now I'm walking on my own 난 혼자서 돌아보지 않아 내 길을 가 You'll regret the day you let me go 날 놓치지 마 넌 아무것도 몰라 I'll rise above you 내 길을 가 그때보다 더 빛날 거야 이제 나를 믿어 If you try just a little harder I could have been your queen but now I'm walking on my own 난 혼자서 돌아보지 않아 내 길을 가 You'll regret the day you let me go 날 놓치지 마 너 없이 나는 더 강해져 이제는 나만을 봐
Interesting little bit of oscillation or sort of like fragmenting. Oh, it continues.
난 이제 You'll regret the day you let me go
And that's the Vader there. That was an interesting sort of faux moment there at the end. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Darion Ree titled New Me. Now, before we get into this, I've given the song an overall score of 7.2 out of 10, which is not a bad score. I'm going to talk about and sort of expand on this in a moment. But first of all, what do I think this track is about? I think this track is about someone who is basically trying to communicate that the other person is missing out on them, their journey, their new self, their sort of like growth, I suppose, the rise of the phoenix kind of situation where you just get the feeling they're going to miss them when they're gone. And then that's effectively what it amounts to, with more context, of course, and added additional to that. You get the impression that they're really trying to emphasize that you regret the day that, you let them go. And so I think that there'll be people that can listen to that story, understand, or maybe relate to the fact that, yeah, after they left a relationship or after they were broken up with, they became a better person. And I think there'll be an audience for this. Vocally, it was interesting. I think that I would have liked a little bit more sass to it. I would have liked a little bit more attitude to it. It's a very somber piece where it feels quite sort of conservative and restrained in its approach. There's a lot of polish to it, but it's almost like we're more focused on trying to provide some interesting, sort of relatively catchy and accessible melodies and harmonies, working alongside those additional background instrumental elements. It seems like that is more of the focus than trying to sell the story vocally. And I just don't know if I feel what they're trying to say there. Again, there's little nuances and inflections and various bits of sort of like pizzazz there, but it doesn't sound to me in a way that is convincing that this is someone who is determined either to let the person know what they're missing out on. It's almost just like you're calmly saying to someone, you will miss me when I'm gone. And if that was the kind of approach, a more somber approach to it, that's totally fine. I mean, it's not like the backing of it was super duper aggressive or anything like that, or in your face or trying to prove a point. But I just personally would have expected, given the subject matter, that maybe we would have at least had a bit more kind of like, maybe a bit more charisma or like a bit more kind of like oomph behind it. And that's not saying that it was sung poorly. I think the vocal technique in general was solid. I was happy with the melodic and sort of harmonic decisions there. We hit the notes cleanly. It's just more the actual feeling and expression of the thing that for me I feel like could be just a further pieces re-examined. Because I really want to feel it. You know what I mean? I know that's such a kind of a subjective thing, but again, music is subjective by proxy. You know, by virtue of being what it is. There's very little ways to quantify it. Instrumentally, I think that it was well played and well handled here. We had some sort of like kind of brushy synthy parts there, some stabs, some 808s there, some other pads there. We had interesting percussive patterns there, but so I think that the elements worked well. We had some sort of like kind of plucked, distorted or gritty plucked parts that were staccatoed on certain parts, and they had a bum bum bum. It was like a catchy melody that they put in place there, and is relatively neutral in regard to it. Because I should go back to the vocals very quickly. I did appreciate the rapped parts. I thought the flow on the vocals was fantastic, and I also liked the fact that we went between English and Korean. I thought that was kind of cool as well, that we had that variety there, and that we allowed for both audiences to kind of figure out what was going on. And maybe the parts in Korean added a little bit of sort of like extra context, and maybe why we were a little bit more sort of subdued in our performance and our expression there. And I know a lot of music nowadays is sort of produced in a way where we're not trying to overemphasize the feels, because some people find that a bit cringe. It's better to sort of be more sort of like metered or balanced. I guess find equilibrium there. Maybe that's the point, but. Yeah, with the fact that we were rapped parts and that there were these kind of sung parts there and the cleans and all that, I think that the 808s and the low end were well rounded enough that it provided a lot of space for the mid and high end sort of harmonies, whether from those kind of plucked elements that I was discussing earlier that set the main theme. The 808s were a nice bit of foundation either by themselves alongside the percussion and some of the lot more like low-key kind of verse parts, or like they suited and reinforced the harmonies when the rest of the layers came in. And there were some interesting sort of like fluffy kind of pads going on in the background, almost like vocal chops that are filtered in a way where they kind of sit on the sides there. And they're really pretty sounding. And I like that they are on like the first and third beats of every time. It might be half time, like 1, 2, 3, 4. But either way, cool stuff. It's just a lot of it is the sound design. I think the work with the hi-hats and the all kind of clicky parts and the nice sort of tight kick drum and those percussive snare or rim elements there, those claps were tight, those sort of trappish parts there. It was classy, it was sophisticated, it had a great sort of groove to it. It was well-rounded from like a post-production perspective, but also from an actual arrangement perspective, things were niched well in the frequency spectrum and the stereo field. And there was dynamic range to it as well. It wasn't all the same loudest the entire time. There was even an interesting fake out at the end where things sort of like kind of go like a bit of fuzzy when we went back into it. I suppose structurally, with the understanding of the fundamentals of music theory and composition, with things such as the percussion, the way the drums are sort of played and performed and sort of met together, the bass, rounding things out on the low end, the other sort of like pads, vocal chops, or like the kind of plucked kind of elements there on the sides, coloring things neatly. Structurally, I feel like we could have still have made more, we could have done more with it. I think that we could have potentially further developed things in the upper end of the frequency spectrum and added like another sort of pseudo lead or something like that, or just something additional alongside the vocals to really sort of fill it out. It felt like the energy levels were reasonably kind of flat, even if we were changing things in regards to our vocal melodies or harmonies. I know that the point of this isn't necessarily to go on a big journey in regards to the actual sort of scope of it, That's just me sort of being transparent. I think if we were just looking for things to potentially improve structurally, it's just adding like another instrument or an additional layer. That I'm just going to quickly double check in a moment, but just something to sort of at least cleanse the palette a little bit. And like I had another double check, and we do sort of harmonize certain elements in the mid to high ranges there. Some of those plucked ones get like an extra sort of step third or higher there. So there is more sort of like attention put deep. It was very subtle at the same time. I suppose that's still kind of classy though, you know? Yeah, so I don't know why we had that thing at the end though, with the burn and the man, and then that kind of wishy what like it could have been cool to have had like a little lead there just to sort of show us finalizing out. I don't know. You could have also just ended it on that vocal line and had things finished, but I'm also not sure what that means in English. So mostly really happy with this track. I think there's a lot of positives with it. Structurally, I mean, I like the transfers between the verses, the bridges, and the chorus, and it is sort of more of a mainstream kind of track there. So like we're not going to be all over the place in regards to composition. Thematically, I think it was more kind of aimed to induce a feeling of that kind of theme or style of music. They were trying to be sort of very loyal to the 808s, the kind of trappish drums there. Those more sort of exotic kind of plucked or sort of gain like melodic elements there with the electronic sort of synths and pads, setting the tone for the style there. I don't know if it necessarily sounded like the story. I don't know if I necessarily sensed a sort of a connection between those two elements there, although it was almost like we had a kind of a calm, collected sort of aesthetic to what we were trying to accomplish here. So maybe that's exactly why we didn't have too much sort of like wild stuff happening as we went along. Maybe the track was like this to invoke a sense of sameness with like the way that we balance things regardless of what we're talking about. I think the theme is assisted by the studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering the other work there. I think that things are well balanced in the frequency spectrum as well as in the stereo field. There's no weird resonant frequencies. You can hear everything that you need to. There's no issues with the actual recording quality of it. There is dynamic range to it. It's nice and loud without pumping. It's really, I like the beat and I like the instruments, and I feel like the vocals are all handled on top of it. Yeah, generally I think this is a positive review. It's been good to hear more music. From Dara and Rian, thank you for checking my review of this track titled New Me, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm just making sure I haven't forgotten anything. Now, I think we're good. Please do go check out the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next Desperate Reacts. Spiderhands out.